The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to Common Sense Living, the stepping stone to success. Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense. Think of Walt Disney. He didn't quit. That's common sense. Like Abraham Lincoln, turn your negatives into positives and your chaos into order. Patience, persistence, perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Welcome to Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense.
Welcome to Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense. This is your host, Jose Luna, in another edition, and I'm so glad to be back. I was out for a few weeks, but I'm glad to be back on track, and I'm glad also that you're giving me the opportunity to be, with you at your place right now, sharing with you some information that I believe is crucial for us to understand in order for us to know how we should behave ourselves in this world filled with turmoil. And Common Sense Living, it's a program that is sponsored pretty much by friends and members of the ministry, Disciples of the Word Ministries Incorporated. Disciples of the Word Ministries Incorporated. And you will be able to see underneath the screen our website, www.disciplesoftheword.org. And as I said, this is your host, Jose Luna, and I am thrilled to be with you today. So today we have a unique continuation, I would say. It is a continuation of what we have been studying about the book of Daniel. And today we're going to be talking about Belshazzar. Belshazzar, a very interesting figure in the history of Babylon. But I want to begin by telling you a story that happened in Brooklyn, New York. A couple bought a brand new home, and the home needed to be remodeled. This is back in the 1950s. In mid-1950s, and they hire a contractor to come and do the remodeling. When the contractor started pulling things apart and breaking down walls and setting up other walls, and beams and all the stuff, the timing came to work in the attic, and it was like a walk-in attic. And when he got into there, one of the workers found a clay tablet. And in that clay tablet, there were some cuneiform sort of writing. And he immediately realized that was something unique. He had never seen anything like that. And he went to his foreman, and his foreman took the tablet to his architect. The architect looked at the tablet, and immediately he realized it was something interesting. So he said, "Where did you get this?" He said, "I found it in the attic." So the architect took the tablet and said, "I need you not to allow anyone to be in that attic until I tell you. None of the members of the crew, and I don't want you to talk about what you found in there. What else did you find?" And he said, "There are thousands of them up there." So the architect went up there, looked at thousands of tablets that were up there, carefully placed, and those tablets, so he said, "I'll get back to you, but I don't want anybody from the crew to be in this section in the attic. And I don't want you to talk to anyone about what you found here." So he went and talked to a friend at the University of New York who was also an archaeologist. And this archaeologist, he brought a tablet with him, and he told him, "You know what this is?" This is the architect telling the professor. And he said, "Where did you get this?" And he opened his eyes. And he said, "Well, I'm doing a work, and we found thousands of them. He said, you want to know what is this? This is from Babylon. This is writings from Babylon. Do you say you have thousands of them? He said, yes, I have thousands. So they made the arrangements with the owners of the home and finally the university, and they got 50,000 tablets. 50,000 tablets. Listen to this. 50,000 tablets, about this size. About this size. And in those tablets, about 8,000 of them have been translated already. But the majority have not been translated. Why am I telling you this story? Because this story is quite fascinating. This is what happened. Before this discovery, the people that maligned the Bible, the people that talk nonsense about the Bible and the accuracy of the people or historical names and places of the Bible that the Bible mentions, they made fun of the Bible. But what happens is that in one of these 8,000 tablets that were translated from the cuneiform writing, Babylonian writing, it was translated, they found the name Belshazzar. Now, the critics of the Bible, the people that were against the Bible, have used Belshazzar's name as a point of basically making a mockery of Christianity and Bible and people who believe the Bible. Why? Because they came up and said, Belshazzar never existed. Nebuchadnezzar never had a son called Belshazzar, because in the book of Daniel, the Belshazzar is named Nebuchadnezzar's son. Now, here's the deal. If Belshazzar never existed, they said, this is all nonsense. None of it, of what the book of Daniel is saying, can be true or trusted, because it's mentioning names, historical names of people that never existed, like Belshazzar. But in one of these tablets, they found the name of Belshazzar, who was son of Nabonidus. Now, Nabonidus, we know from history today that Nabonidus was the son of Nebuchadnezzar. Therefore, Belshazzar was his grandson. So you have a valid question right now. If Belshazzar was Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, why the Bible does not say is his grandson? It's a valid question. The answer is very simple. In ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, there was no word to say grandson or granddaughter. Everybody was a son. You had a descendant, is your son. Anyone underneath you, blood related, was your son. Therefore, even though technically for us today, Belshazzar was Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, in reality, he had to be called son because they didn't have a word for grandson. Follow me on that? Okay, so now that we are clear with this, let's begin our journey about Belshazzar's ruling. Belshazzar ruled for about 3.5 years. By the way, the last 3.5 years of the Babylonian Empire as an empire. And we are going to find out today why and how that happened. Let's go into the screen. Belshazzar, grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, is the ruling king of Babylon. He offered a great feast for 1,000 of his officials. An ideal king's court in ancient times was considered to be 1,000 members. This feast became a drunken orgy. Now, I want you to remember what's happening here. Darius and Cyrus, who were co-rulers of the Medo-Persian Empire, they make a confederation. Let me put it in terms that you understand better, easier to understand. Iran and Iraq came together to fight against Babylon. Darius was from Iran, and Cyrus was from what today is Iraq. At that time was called the Medes and the Persians. Now, they came together to fight against Babylon. But because Babylon was, in Mesopotamia, Babylon had a unique layout for battle. The city was between two rivers. They had one of the greatest and most fortified walls of the ancient times. In fact, they could be in Babylon for 20 years without any problem, without even leaving the city, and still the enemies would not be able to conquer them. Because in ancient times they would go surround the city and people had to come out to get the food and whatever. They were self-sufficient when it came with the hanging gardens. They were able to do agriculture, mini agriculture right at home. But in addition to that, they have plenty of drinkable water, for 20 years and food for 20 years that they could grow and grow and grow over and over without any need to leave the city itself. So the engineers of the Medo-Persian Empire that were led by Darius and Cyrus, they were thinking, how are we going to conquer this city? So they came up with this brilliant idea of going to the top where the Tigris and Euphrates River begin. And right at the top, they dug a channel so that some of the water would be diverted, but not too much water so it would not get the attention of the Babylonians. Just for the flow of the water to go low enough so that the soldiers would go in the water and go underneath the walls, the doors that went underneath the doors of Babylon in the river. So eventually, this is what I'm saying. This is exactly what was happening. So in the midst of a surrounding, of being besieged, as we use this language in for war then for ancient times, the Babylonians, led by Belshazzar, the king, he, instead of trying to find out and going out and fighting the Medo-Persians, he closed the walls, closed everything, and called for a party with 1,000 of his most loyal servants, 1,000 courtiers. And this is what's happening. Let's go back to the screen. The God of Israel was blasphemed with Belshazzar's attitude. The king, in the midst of the party, when he was drunk, he asked the people to bring the vessels that his grandfather Nebuchadnezzar brought from Jerusalem, the vessels that they used in the temple to offer libations to God himself. So the king took those vessels and praised the gods of gold, of silver, of bronze, iron, wood, and stone. And again, you can see there 6 metals involved, or 6, not metals, 6 items that were involved in this worship. Belshazzar lacked wisdom, and he lacked judgment. And because of his lack of wisdom and judgment was passed upon him and his kingdom. And I want you to remember that the name 6 means all kinds of false gods. It means humans trying to be like God. So going back to the screen, Cyrus had won every battle and was preparing to attack the city that night. A divine judgment was pronounced against Belshazzar. A hand was sent to write the sentence of the grand jury on the wall. in the middle of the party, all of a sudden the lights, this wind came off, the lights were flickering, the candles went off, and all of a sudden this neon, I don't know, I'm just guessing, this neon hand showed up, writing in neon letters that everyone could see in the reflection of the night, writing on the wall the following message. And before I talk about that message, I want to tell you about the walls. The wall of the palace was 173 feet high, or actually long, and 57 feet high. Now, the act of writing on the wall meant that a legal sentence was pronounced. You write a sentence after you pronounce the sentence. That means the punishment fit the crime. Belshazzar challenged God's rulership, and because of that, he lost his kingdom. And let's talk about the concept of punishment fits the crime just briefly. Let me tell you, for example, oh man, we don't have much time. But for example, Miriam, Moses' sister, she was jealous of Moses. But she was jealous of Moses not because he was a leader. This is why Miriam was jealous. Moses' wife had died, and Moses felt lonely. Therefore, he wanted to get remarried, right? So, among all the people that were in Israel in the wilderness, he found this Ethiopian girl, black girl, right? And he fell in love with a black girl. So what? And, he married this girl. Now, Miriam, Moses' sister, was mad at Moses. And she was complaining and whining and bickering and murmuring against her brother. And God heard it in heaven. So she's talking to Aaron, and God comes to both of them and said, I need you to go to the tabernacle and tell Moses to meet me there. I need to speak with the three of you. This story is found in the book of Numbers, chapter 12. Now, this is what happened. When they come to the church, the church that they had at that time, it was a tent, but it was the church, called the tabernacle. God said, who do you think you are, Mary? You think that you are better than anybody because your skin is lighter? You are mistaken. You are totally, absolutely mistaken. I talked to Moses face to face. He is my servant. And if he had done anything wrong, I would have told him already. You have no place to be mad at him because he wants to be happy. So because you think that you are too white, I'm going to make you white. And then God hit her with leprosy. Now, leprosy has this unique particularity that once you get leprosy, your skin becomes necrotic, which means totally white. Your cells die and they become white. And because she thought that she was really, really too white, God made her really white. So that means punishment fit the crime. And she was like that for 30 days, a whole month. And she was outcast from the camp for 30 days to live on her own. Basically, God gave her a timeout. I need you to think about diversity. I need you to think about the way you are processing. It's wrong. And that's basically what the message that God was sending to Miriam and also sending to us today. We should not make any discrimination on anyone based on the color of your skin or gender or whatever that is. So, punishment fit the crime. Now, let's talk about the reward. When this writing came on the wall, nobody knew what it meant. Nobody knew. They were able to read it because it was in their language, but they did not understand what it meant. And immediately, the king, who was totally drunk, and his princes and the concubines and prostitutes, that were there basically having open sex and, swinging and all the stuff that people do, right? So immediately when this hand appeared, writing a sentence on the wall that was 157 feet long by 57 feet high, right? Belshazzar offered a reward. And let's go into the screen to see. He said, whoever gives me the interpretation, I will clothe it in purple, which means royal color. I will put a gold chain around his neck, which is the ancient Semitic custom to honor public servants, or the ancient way, near ancient way of honoring public servants, a gold chain. He also offered that person to be the third ruler in the kingdom. Nabonidus was the king. He was in a place called Tema, and he was really sick, and that's why Belshazzar was the co-ruler with Nabonidus, his father. So Belshazzar was a co-regent or co-ruler with Nabonidus, his father. So the queen mother was an official court counselor. The reason is that kings had many wives. Therefore, the mother of the king held that unique position. So she came in because she was not present in this nonsense party, right? And she heard about the incident from the princess. And then she came in to testify, to talk on behalf of Daniel, who was a senior guy in, almost 90 years old, probably around 88 years old when this happened, and she comes and tells her son, or her grandson actually, Belshazzar, these words. And he says, there is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. Light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him, whom the king made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, soothsayers, for as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts. Now let Daniel be brought before the king. This is the queen mother, grandma, coming in saying, my grandson, there is a guy here in your kingdom that is able to interpret what you see on that wall. Nobody here can interpret, everybody's drunk. But there is a guy that your grandfather used to, he was the headmaster of everybody here. He had more wisdom than anybody. So he bring him in, and he will interpret it. So let's go and see what he said. Daniel was brought in to explain the writings. Daniel has no respect for Belshazzar. He said, O king, instead of, O king, live forever. And then Daniel told him basically, I really don't care about your gifts. Keep your gifts to yourself, or for yourself. And Belshazzar lacked wisdom, and for lack of wisdom, he defied the Most High God and lost his life and his kingdom on one single day. According to the astrological chart, the zodiac of Babylon, the Libra had changed the day before, which means that the time has changed. And the Libra, they believe, was the one who ruled the celestial realm, who ruled the princes and the kings and all the stuff. That's what their belief system was. So basically, these were the words that were on that wall. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. You might think, what does that mean? Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. This was written in their own language, but they were not able to understand it because it was written in a riddle. In order for you to understand it, God had to give you the understanding of it. So let's take a look and see what exactly mene, mene, tekel, upharsin meant. Mene, God counted your kingdom. Tekel, God weighed your kingdom. Pay attention to the verbs, the operative verbs. Counted, weighed your kingdom, and you were found wanting. Perez, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin, or upharsin. So basically, Also, this means one mind, two minds, tickle, right? Another mind, and half a mind. So it's another riddle of basically saying 3.5 years. But we won't get into that today. So Daniel had one Nebuchadnezzar for the side of God. But he could not win Belshazzar because this king chose a different course of action. Conclusion. Not always we are going to convince and persuade people who are listening to us because of what we know today as free will. The only thing that we can do when someone, let's say, is a drug addict is try to persuade this person to go and find, and find help, professional help. Beyond that, you cannot force this person to get well. So, likewise, when it comes to our salvation, our lives, our decisions that we have to make about God, no one should force that upon you or upon anybody. Religion that is forced, that uses coercion to bring you to obedience with God, is a false religion. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you might believe. But if your religion is telling me that if I don't obey your God is going to kill me, I don't want to do anything. I don't want anything to do with that God. Therefore, Daniel tried to persuade Belshazzar. Belshazzar was a spoiled brat kid that grew up totally spoiled. And he thought that he was the king of the world. And in a way, he was. But he was not the last Coca-Cola in the desert. The point made here is, my friends, God is the one who sets up rulers. He sets up rulers, and he takes down rulers. God is the one who does all this work. Therefore, what is my suggestion for you? Be wise. Honoring God is a sign of wisdom. He says, I will honor those who honor me. And he also says, the beginning of wisdom is reverence and respect for God. That's the beginning of wisdom. If you want to be wise, start respecting, honoring, and, worshiping the only true God. This was Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense. This was your host, Jose Luna. See you next time.
Welcome to Common Sense Living, the stepping stone to success. Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense. Think of Walt Disney. He didn't quit. That's common sense. Like Abraham Lincoln, turn your negatives into positives and your chaos into order. Patience, persistence, perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Welcome to Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense.